We're IsoEnergy. We're a uranium explorer focused on the eastern Athabasca. We're the first of the spin-outs from Nextgen Energy. Of course, Nextgen, having discovered the Arrow uranium deposit, that business has now grown from a $10 million market capitalisation to an $800 million market cap. They're moving that project into production. And we're a spin-out, so we're essentially the business development and exploration arm, very much focused on the eastern Athabasca. We've built up a big land position out there, very well funded, in part thanks to the support of Nextgen. We've raised 17 million to date, and very pleased to report that we've made a recent discovery there in that eastern Athabasca on our La Roque East property. We're drilling our Hurricane deposit out as we speak, and that's a fast-growing deposit. I think we're the only uranium junior with a recent high-grade discovery.
We'd love to understand the thinking, the rationale, the thesis behind setting up now. Obviously, we saw in the last cycle, it went from 50 companies to 500 companies. I would like a sort of sense of where you think you are now in that cycle, and how you got to where you are today.
And I think we're probably at about 2003, 2004. We might be a year or two away from a serious boom, but the scene is set for that boom now. And then, against that backdrop, we've always been bullish on uranium, and hence we set up Nextgen Energy back in 2011 and 12. Lee Courier, myself and Chris McFadden got that company up and running. Lee was the main driver, of course, and we helped fund the company and get Lee started there. And he's delivered spectacularly well for us and our other shareholders. He made that discovery there, the Arrow discovery in Nextgen back in 2013. And of course that saw Nextgen, despite markets being as bad as we've ever seen them. Nextgen, we did the original financing there at 5 cents, now trading around $2 today, got as high as $4 a while back. So, the thesis is playing out. I think globally demand for uranium continues to grow strongly. It's a low carbon solution to energy problems globally. So, we've always liked the thesis for it. And we set up IsoEnergy against that.
Right, let's talk about that. Let's talk about your company. That's what we want to understand. So you guys were associated with Nextgen. They're a major shareholder, 53%. Whose idea was it to set up IsoEnergy? Why'd you do it?
We took that decision as a board. We had a bit of a challenge there with the discovery of Arrow. Our investors there at Nextgen expected us to focus all of our time, dollars and efforts on that deposit. And that saw our very good portfolio out in the eastern Athabasca not seeing much love and attention. And being uranium bulls, we thought there's a lot more we can do out there. There's an opportunity in weak markets to build up a much bigger land position in what is really the most prospective part of the world for uranium. So in 2016, we took that decision. I came on board as CEO. I was a director of Nextgen, of course, and involved there. But I took the decision we took the decision to come on board as CEO.
How does moving from a big company like that into back into the lower end of the junior market, let's face it, right? How does that work in today's environment?
We're believers in uranium, and if you're going to explore for uranium, you should do it in the places where the biggest and best and highest grade deposits are. So, so we saw that opportunity as a real, something that was being missed by the market, and it was opportunistic in part. There's a sort of thick stream of big company experience, uranium experience, and what that gives us, I suppose, and the reason we've sort of gone into exploration is we see there's a big opportunity, but we also have that experience to take a project from its earlier stages, just as Lee's doing at Nextgen there with Arrow, take it from exploration all the way into development and eventually into production. And so having that sort of expertise on the board affords us an advantage over, we think, a lot of our competitors.
But it's kind of irrelevant at this point because no one can produce at these prices. Spot prices is what it is. You got to wait for the market to pop before it goes. And everyone, you got a lot of people sitting on former producing assets, DFSs, which they can get into production relatively quickly. So let's all assume the market's going to pop. You guys, you're early exploration, so you're going to miss this cycle, aren't you?
What we hope for is a much more sustained and steady increase in uranium prices over time. So that provides opportunity. I think for us, though, we've made a discovery in the eastern Athabasca, our hurricane discovery. We made that in July last year. So we're very well positioned as the only company with a new recent discovery as this bull market starts to take hold, gather steam. So, we're pretty well set up.
Let's talk about Nextgen. They've got 53%. I presume they've followed the money the whole way through. I mean, or have they?
Yes, absolutely. Right. So the last two financings we've done, they've backed substantially. So that $5.5 million financing we did back in December, Nextgen put in $1.5 million of that. So you can see that level. So it's substantial. I think that the company would like to retain a majority stake in IsoEnergy going forward as well.
What is the basis of that relationship? Who leads who? They're a majority shareholder, but who runs the company?
I suppose when we set up the company, we saw that ISO would be effectively an exploration and business development arm in some sense. But I should say that they're very independent companies. Lee lets me get on with the team here and run the company independently, with all those checks and balances and good governance that you would expect to have with an independent board in place as well.
At what point does that conversation come along where they go, okay, this is now in our interests. You've delivered the company to a position where it's really interesting to us. The value is there for us to take, and we'll take control of this again. I mean, is there a piece of paper which talks about that, or is it these just conversations which may turn up?
There's certainly no piece of paper that stipulates any of that, and there's no shareholder agreement or anything like that. Nextgen's, its shareholdings carry the exact same rights as all other shareholders, so completely independent in that sense. But I do think that if you're going to grow, I think that Nextgen, with that Arrow deposit, has the potential to be the most significant uranium business in the world. That includes Cameco and Kazatomprom. Lee's talking about they're producing 25 million pounds per annum plus at really a step change in cost base to other producers globally. I think once built, Arrow will occupy almost the entire first quartile of the cost curve at a significant discount to every other producer. So there you have the potential to build the world's biggest and most significant and successful uranium producer. And if you're going to build a serious business, a serious company with scale, then you do need other projects, of course. And so having a foothold in ISO, should any of our work lead to a serious deposit, and we think we're getting close on that front with our hurricane discovery that we made midway through last year. Having other projects of quality is important as you grow that business. So it's far too early to speculate on how that all may play out, but certainly having a supportive shareholder like Nextgen there is absolutely a great thing for us.
I don't quite at the moment understand your strategy. If it's a go drill some holes, see what we've got. We're in the right postcode. We're bound to find something. What's the moment where the value is created for shareholders like me, new people coming into the company? I should be thinking, well, do I just hold off and wait till these guys have gone a little bit further? Or do I come in now while their price is good? And quite frankly, at some point, do they lose control because Nextgen find it too interesting to ignore?
As I say, we took Nextgen from 5 cents to trading at $2 a share today. So delivered investors 40 times their original investment and counting. At IsoEnergy, most of the money that we've put in personally and that has come in so far has been at around $1. So we're under delivering on that front. But back when we drilled that discovery hole, we were trading, this is July last year, we're trading at about 27 cents a share, now trading at around 52 cents a share today. So that discovery started to deliver value for shareholders. But the upside is dramatic, of course.
Are you worried at all that you are getting the kind of Canadian premium?
When we started ISO, we did a deal to acquire a property called our North Thorburn property. We paid the owner of that project, Jody DeRouge, $1 million in stock in ISO. Now, it's a very well located property, and we think has great potential, but at that stage it had no real modern exploration done on it. So property in the Eastern Athabasca, because of the opportunity that it presents, is always highly valued. And hence, I think you do see Athabasca Basin companies having potentially, as you say, a premium. I think, not really a premium, just more value ascribed to them because they're in the Athabasca Basin.
How do junior companies like yourselves survive? How do you keep the lights on long enough to get to cash flow? How do you keep people interested in what you're doing long enough?
Firstly, having that Nextgen connection has been tremendous. And our original backers in ISO had made a lot of money out of Nextgen. And hence we've found it, fairly never easy to raise capital, particularly in the worst uranium market anyone's ever seen, but probably relatively easier than our competitors.
Yeah, but let's get to you and what you were going to do. Because if I do a word search on the transcription of this, I'm going to hear Nextgen more than I've heard ISO. And I think that you guys got to take that experience and now convert it, or tell people how you're going to convert it to get people interested in what you're doing. So what is it that you're going to do? Why should people come in now?
So our strategy is so very, very simple. And that is put your foot on as much of the Eastern Athabasca as you can. Still the most prospective part of the world for high-grade uranium deposits. We're surrounded by them. Our Thorburn Lake property, for example, is right next door, 6 kilometres away from, and a long strike from Cigar Lake, one of the world's great uranium mines. So put your foot on as much of that prospective ground as you can. Do it as cheaply as you can, and of course our timing's been very good at that on that front. I think we've gone through we've ranked and prioritised 7,000 different opportunities in the Eastern Athabasca. We've whittled those down to a short list of 25, and then we've gone and put our foot on as many of those that we can, and we've managed to do that successfully. Our Geiger property is a good example of that strategy playing out. Our La Roque East, where we've discovered Hurricane, same situation. The Geiger property, when we acquired that off Cameco back 2 years ago, we found, that property had 7 mineralised intercepts that had never been followed up. Though any one of those intercepts could be tantamount to a discovery hole. So, our strategy there has been very simple. Then go in, fund the company and test each of those targets. We did that, and the best example of that strategy playing out well for us has been our La Roque East acquisition. We acquired that off Cameco back in May last year. We paid the princely sum of $300,000 worth of stock and $20,000 in cash to Cameco. Within 6 weeks, we had a drill rig on site. We only had budget for one hole. We were finishing up a program nearby at Geiger. So we wanted to go and just test our very best target. So having done that deal for $320,000 in May, we had a rig out there at the end of June, and we announced our discovery hole in July last year, which was a really spectacular result. Some of those beautiful high-grade uranium hits that you expect from the Athabasca. And we've been drilling ever since. So for me, I've never seen a company take an acquisition through to discovery so very quickly. And that's the opportunity that the Eastern Athabasca presents. That's the opportunity that ISO presents.
You're not first to the party, okay? Nextgen, Fish and Cameco, they're all there. They're sitting with big assets. So you're not necessarily late to the party, but you're not early either. How are you gonna stand out from this swathe of new entrants into the market?
I don't think we have to worry too much about standing out, because we are the only junior with a recent high-grade discovery that will be drilling out as that market kicks off. So pretty straightforward to differentiate yourself. And we don't get too bogged down in what the competition's doing. We stick to our knitting. I've outlined the strategy there. It's a very clear, straightforward strategy. We'll just stick to our knitting and keep doing that. I don't mind if the market stays in the doldrums for another year or two, because there are other properties out in the Athabasca that we'd like to put our foot on.